to real history. 300 men stood against the greatest army on Earth, and they knew they were going to die. This is how legends are born. The Battle of Thermopylae. The year was 480 before Christ. In this year, two empires collided, and a handful of men chose to stand and die rather than yield. To understand Thermopylae, the hot gates, named for sulfurous springs bubbling from rocky earth, one must first comprehend two kingdoms utterly different. The Persian Empire stretched from Egypt to India, a realm so vast that a man on the fastest horse required 3 months merely to travel from center to borders. Its capital at Persepolis gleamed with marble and gold. Its armies had conquered every kingdom they faced. But in 490 BC, at Marathon, disaster struck. A Greek force somehow defeated Darius the Great's invasion army. The wound to Persian pride never healed. Darius died before mounting another invasion. The task fell to his son, Xerxes. Xerxes was 40 years old when he inherited the throne. Born to absolute power, raised in unimaginable luxury, every courtier whispered the same thing. Your father's legacy was unfinished. Greece remains unconquered. You alone can complete what he began. At his side was his mother, Atossa, a woman of formidable intelligence. There was also his cousin Mardonius, his most trusted general, a man of fierce ambition who would gain enormous power if Xerxes approved the invasion. But Xerxes hesitated. His uncle Artabanus warned, "Sire, the ocean is treacherous. The Greeks, though few, are fierce. Distance and time will defeat you as surely as any spear." Xerxes could not bear to be thought afraid. Visions came to him in the night. A phantom visitor urging him onward. Go to Greece, or be forever diminished. He declared his intention to invade. The preparation took years. Armies were gathered from every corner of the Persian Empire. A navy of over 1,200 ships was assembled. Engineers built a bridge across the Hellespont and cut a canal through a mountain. It was a feat of such magnitude that men marveled. By spring 480, Xerxes' army began moving westward. Wherever it passed, Greek cities trembled. Sparta was not like other Greek cities. While Athens became a democracy, Sparta was a military state organized entirely around the preparation for war. Founded by a lawgiver named Lycurgus, every aspect of Spartan life served a single purpose: to create the most fearsome warrior nation on earth. Sparta had no walls. The Spartans believed their young men were their walls. Every male citizen was trained from childhood in an ordeal called the agog. At age 7, boys were taken from their mothers and placed in state trainers' care. They learned to fight, to obey without question, to endure pain without complaint. They went nearly naked in winter, slept on hard ground, were regularly whipped. By manhood, a Spartan was not merely a soldier. He was a weapon, honed by systematic brutality. Sparta was governed by 2 kings to prevent either from gaining too much power. Below them was a council of elders and 5 annual magistrates called ephors. When news reached Sparta that Xerxes' immense army was gathering, the assembly was called. A weathered warrior stood before them, 60 years old, his face carved by decades of wind and sun. His name was Leonidas, one of Sparta's 2 kings. Leonidas possessed something many warriors lack: intelligence. He understood that Xerxes' vast army would have to move through Greece, a land of mountains and narrow passes favoring disciplined defenders. He had heard of Thermopylae, where a handful of men could hold off an enormous force. The month was Carnia, a sacred festival when Spartan law forbade committing major forces away from home. So Leonidas proposed, send 300 of Sparta's finest warriors, along with contingents from other Greek cities, to hold the hot gates. It would delay the Persians until the festival ended and the full Spartan army could mobilize. His wife Gorgo asked him directly, "Will you return?" Leonidas looked at her a long moment. In his dark eyes was calm acceptance. The acceptance of a man who had already decided how he wished to face whatever came. "The passes favor the defender," he said finally, "and we will defend." Gorgo understood. She said what Spartans had said for centuries. "Come back bearing your shield, or come back upon it." The 300 Spartan hoplites assembled in the palace courtyard, dressed in red cloaks. Their armor was bronze, brilliantly polished. Each carried a round shield, a 7-foot spear, and a short sword. Most were surprisingly old. The youngest was well into his 30s. Spartan soldiers never retired. They served until their bodies could no longer function. Leonidas addressed them briefly. "We go north to Thermopylae. Xerxes' army will come. When they do, we will stand. The narrow passes favor us. This is what we are." The 300 did not cheer. The Spartans despised unnecessary emotion, but each man felt the weight of those words. They would stand or they would die. As the Spartan column marched north, other Greek cities sent contingents. 700 men from Thespiae, 400 from Thebes, 500 each from Corinth, Mantinea, and Tegea. Smaller contingents from other cities. In total, perhaps 7,000 men. A force that seemed pathetically small compared to the hundreds of thousands Xerxes commanded. One evening, a young warrior from Corinth approached Leonidas. "King, I have heard the Persians number 300,000. We are 7,000. Can we hold a pass against such numbers?" Leonidas did not appear troubled. Numbers matter less than you might think. At Marathon 10 years ago, the Persians came in such numbers they seemed to fill the sky. The Athenians defeated them. Why? Because the Persians could not use their numbers. The Greek phalanx is a formation designed to break the charge of spearmen. The Persians use lighter armor and shorter spears. At close quarters, they cannot compete with us. And that is what awaits them at Thermopylae. Their numerical superiority becomes useless. Their numbers become a liability. In late August, the Greeks reached Thermopylae. The pass was exactly as described. A narrow valley between mountains and sea, barely wide enough for an army to march through. The Greeks positioned themselves behind the Phocian Wall, ancient ruins that provided defensive advantage. The hoplite phalanx, heavily armored soldiers standing shoulder to shoulder with overlapping shields, was the most devastating military tactic the ancient world had discovered. In a narrow pass behind a wall, it became virtually unstoppable. Leonidas walked the entire length, examining terrain. He stationed men to guard the Anopia path, a mountain goat track that ran over hills behind the pass. A potential outflanking route. By the time Xerxes' advance forces appeared, the Greeks were ready. The Persian army had been marching for months. From Persepolis through the heart of Xerxes' empire, the logistical undertaking was staggering. Supply trains stretching miles, thousands of pack animals, careful coordination of stopping points and water sources. Now that army arrived at Thermopylae. First came scouts and light cavalry, then larger contingents. Median troops, the crack infantry forming the backbone of the Persian army. Then the elite 10,000 immortals, Xerxes' personal guard. Warriors of reputation and proven skill dressed in distinctive armor. And finally, approaching in a litter carried on slaves' shoulders, came Xerxes himself. Xerxes moved like a god, having been raised to believe he was descended from divinity. His robe was purple and gold. His beard was carefully groomed, oiled, and perfumed. Hundreds of attendants surrounded him, preparing his tent, his meals, his comforts. He had never known physical deprivation. When he saw the Greek force in the pass, his first response was surprise. They are so few, he said to Mardonius, 7,000 against 120,000. At least, sire, Mardonius replied, they cannot possibly resist. We should march forward immediately and crush them. But Xerxes did not move immediately. He was accustomed to instant obedience, not outright defiance. The Greeks were not fleeing. They were not offering to surrender. They appeared to be actually preparing to fight. He called forward Demaratus, a Greek exile from Corinth who had found refuge at the Persian court. Demaratus looked at the 300 Spartan soldiers, at the red cloaks catching sunlight, at the perfect discipline of their formation, and his face went pale. "Sire," Demaratus said carefully, "those are Spartans. They will not flee. They will not surrender. They will fight until they are killed." "Then they will be killed," Xerxes said, but uncertainty colored his voice. "They are only 300. I have thousands of soldiers." He ordered the first attack to commence. The attacks began at dawn. Waves of Persian infantry advanced into the narrow pass. The first assault consisted of light infantry, men with shorter spears and lighter armor than the Greeks. But the tactic failed completely. The Greek hoplites were equipped with spears 15 feet long, standing in formation with overlapping shields, creating an impenetrable wall. Persian soldiers attempting to push through found themselves unable to reach the Greeks with their shorter spears. Their lighter armor offered little protection against heavy spear thrusts. The Persians kept sending fresh soldiers. The result was always the same. The Greeks held their line, bodies piled up in the pass. The Persians fell back. Then more Persians came, and again they fell back. Leonidas moved along the Greek line, checking positions, encouraging men, ensuring the formation remained unbroken. Throughout the first day, the pattern repeated. Persian units attacked. Greek spears drove them back. By evening, Persian commanders were bewildered. They had conquered every kingdom they faced through overwhelming force. They had never encountered a defender that did not eventually break. On the second day, Xerxes grew desperate. He unloosed his ultimate weapon, the 10,000 immortals. They were the cream of the empire, men whose ranks were never allowed to fall below 10,000, giving the illusion of a supernatural force that could not be killed. They marched in a shimmering silence, their breastplates fashioned like the scales of a serpent, and their spear butts weighted with silver pomegranates and golden apples. Yet even they, the masters of the East, could not find a crack in the Spartan wall. The narrow pass rendered their numbers useless. They died in the shadows of the cliffs, their gold-embroidered robes stained with the common red of mortality. Xerxes watched from behind the lines, his face growing darker with each failed assault. He was beginning to understand this would not be the simple conquest he envisioned. That night, during his council, a messenger arrived with a solution. The man's name was Ephialtes, a Greek from the local region. He knew a path through the mountains, the Anopaia path, that would allow the Persians to move around the Greek defenders and attack them from behind. For a suitable reward, he would guide them. Xerxes did not hesitate. He immediately dispatched 10,000 elite immortals under General Hydons. They would march through the night, guided by Ephialtes, and position themselves behind the Greek line. Leonidas and his men would be caught between two forces. The next morning, a Greek scout stumbled into Leonidas' position, breathless and urgent. "Sire, the Persians have gone around us. They are crossing the mountains. They will be here by afternoon." Leonidas did not react with shock. He gathered the Greek commanders. "The position is no longer tenable. We can retreat now and rejoin the main Greek army to the south. Or we stay here, buy time for others to escape, and hold as long as we possibly can." One commander spoke up. "If we retreat, we can fight again at another position." "Yes," Leonidas agreed, "but Xerxes' army is already in Greece. Every day he is not delayed. He moves closer to Athens, to every city-state we hold dear. If we leave without exacting a price, he will move unopposed." He paused. "I will stay here. I will not retreat. I am king of Sparta. A king does not flee." The silence that followed was profound. His subordinates understood completely. He was choosing to die. He was asking them to understand his choice was correct. Was the Spartan way, was honor. The Thespian commander stood. "We will stay with you, king. Our city is nearby. If we flee, the Persians will destroy it anyway." One by one, commanders understood. Some contingents would retreat to rejoin the larger Greek army. But the core force, the 300 Spartans, the 700 Thespians, would remain. Leonidas addressed them one final time. "You know what awaits us. The Persians are closing in. We will be surrounded. We will be outnumbered perhaps 10-1. There is no realistic prospect of victory. There is only the prospect of death." He paused. "But understand, death in battle against superior odds is not dishonor. It is the highest honor. Xerxes believes himself invincible. We will teach him he is wrong. We will show Greece that resistance is possible. Our deaths here are not the end of Greece's freedom. They are the beginning of its defense." He raised his spear. "The Spartans do not run. The Spartans do not surrender. The Spartans stand, and we will stand today." The Persians attacked in overwhelming numbers as afternoon turned toward evening. From the front, Median infantry crashed against the Greek line. From flanks and rear, the Immortals descended, attempting to encircle and crush the defenders. The Greeks fell back gradually, maintaining discipline as their numbers dwindled. They reached Kolonos, the last defensible position. Men fought alongside men they had trained with, men they had eaten with, men they knew would die fighting beside them. Leonidas was everywhere, encouraging, fighting, refusing to yield. An old man in mortal combat, moving with 6 decades of training discipline. His face, streaked with blood and sweat, remained calm, only grim purpose. Then a spear found him. He fell among his men, still fighting, still refusing to yield. When the Greeks realized their king had fallen, a terrible struggle ensued. They fought to protect his body, understanding what would follow if Xerxes claimed it. The Persians fought equally hard, driven by knowledge that their king wanted proof the Spartan leader was dead. In the end, the Persians prevailed. They claimed the body. That night, Xerxes ordered Leonidas's body beheaded and his head placed on a pike before his army. It was meant to assert Persian supremacy, to show that even the greatest Greek warrior could not stand against the King of Kings. But standing before that pike, looking at the calm face of the Spartan king even in death, many Persian soldiers felt something other than triumph. They saw a man who had known he would die but had chosen to stand anyway. They saw courage transcending normal human limits. Xerxes' attempt to humiliate the Greeks had elevated them instead. By nightfall, Thermopylae had fallen. The Greek defenders were virtually exterminated. Xerxes had taken the pass, but the price was extraordinarily high. The Persians suffered perhaps 5,000 casualties. Many times their Greek losses, but far more symbolic. Xerxes marched south, burning Athens, destroying temples the Greeks held sacred. It should have been total victory. But at Salamis, a month later, the Greek fleet lured the Persian navy into a narrow strait where larger ships could not maneuver effectively. The Greeks won decisively. Xerxes fled back to Persia. The next year, at Plataea, the Greek army defeated Mardonius decisively. The Persian invasion was repelled. Greece remained free. The 300 Spartans, along with the Thespians who stood with Leonidas, had not defeated the Persian army. But they had shown that resistance was possible, that an empire was not invincible, that courage and discipline could stand against overwhelming numbers. Leonidas never saw Salamis or Plataea. He died believing his cause was lost, but his death itself became victory. His refusal to retreat, his choice to stand, his willingness to sacrifice everything. These inspired Greece to continue fighting when it might have surrendered. Xerxes had conquered the pass, but he had not crushed Greek resistance. The Persian invasions slowly faded as empires of the East finally acknowledged what Greece had proven at Thermopylae: that a small force of disciplined, determined men fighting for their homes and freedom could stand against the greatest imperial power ever assembled. The hot gates had been breached, but the gates of Greek spirit had been sealed stronger than ever, reinforced by blood of those who chose to stand rather than run, to die rather than surrender, to be remembered forever as the men who would not yield. If you enjoyed today's journey back to ancient times, I'd be truly grateful for your like. It's the best way to let me know that these stories are worth making. I'm already preparing another exciting story for you, so if you don't want to miss it, consider subscribing. I'll see you next week.